Yeah, good morning and thanks for joining. We would like to get started. It's already 10:30 and thanks once again for taking time out on a Saturday. And I really hope that we have a good interactive session in a limited way. Since we are in a big number, what we have decided is that we have requested all of you to be on mute. And there will be few interactive elements. I'll be asking few questions, and I would request you to answer those questions in the comments using the chat feature on Zoom. And also we are live on YouTube. So you can also go to the YouTube live and use comments if you want to share any responses or any ideas that you have as we go ahead. Okay. So the first session is on NEP 2020 awareness, and the larger image of this webinar series, which we are going to conduct today and the next 2 Saturdays, is about preparing the teachers, trainers, and instructors, and also the adjunct faculty for the 21st century classroom, as we are calling it. So the first session is about awareness and highlights of NEP 2020, that's National Education Policy 2020. Then the second session, which is going to be held on next Saturday at the same time, will be on 21st century skills for teachers, trainers, facilitators, instructors, and adjunct faculty. And the third session, which is going to be held the following Saturday, will be about technology and continuous professional development, and how there are many opportunities that are getting created for teachers. So let me start with this image, which I'm sure most of you have seen already. So if you look at the education system in India, for most of the time, it has been something like this. It has been very exam-oriented. And it seemed like the duty of the teacher was also to prepare the students for exams, whether you are looking at the academic classroom or vocational classroom, where you have mostly the trainers, the stressful environment of appearing for the exams, getting good marks, and then becoming employable. So this is the kind of thought process that has been there with us for several decades. So no matter what you are, everybody had to kind of, show the same kind of responses or the same kind of performance in the exam, or irrespective of what your talents are, you were measured by the same yardstick of the exam, of the assessment. So with NEP 2020, we are going to get into a very different way of functioning. And that is going to transform the way we learn, the way we teach, and the way we assess. So the 20th century classroom, as we see it, is not limited to a physical entity, time, or space. Today, when you think about classroom, the extended classroom can be my home as well. It can be a place where I'm very comfortably sitting and learning. So it is extended so much, and especially with post-COVID scenario, we are talking about technology-enabled learning. So the notion of a classroom is something we need to relook at. We have to reimagine. And it's definitely not about preparing for exams. In 21st century classroom or 21st century learning is more about accepting that skills are more important than academic learning alone, which means acquiring knowledge, acquiring information alone is not enough. You need to have certain skills to perform, to show that, we are capable of doing certain, so many things. So the idea of skill is becoming more and more prominent, not just in India, but it's a global phenomenon where we feel learning can happen anywhere, anytime, but how you apply that learning in a certain situation, that's where the skill comes into effect. Then how does one transition to the world of work is very important. And then degrees, as I said, is not so important. Of course, we might acquire a lot of degrees, but what is it that we do with that degree becomes very critical. And the focus is also on learning outcome based education, learning outcome based curriculum. Unlike something which we want to give to the students, we have to first understand what is it that we want them to do. So that's the learning outcome that becomes a part of the syllabus, the curriculum, right from the time we think of a course. Then technology enablement or technology integration is another important feature. And definitely teachers, trainers, instructors are going to play a very critical role in this 21st century classroom. And that is where it connects with NEP 2020, where we believe that implementing NEP 2020 is definitely a very difficult task, because it involves, there are many challenges to implement, but the moment the teacher takes the initiative, the moment the faculty members take the initiative, it's like you have taken a very big step to implement the most of the recommendations that are there in NEP 2020. So when we look at NEP 2020, actually we are addressing a lot of issues that are there in the present educational system, where we are very worried about how we create employment for youth, how we create jobs for them, can they become job creators, how do we facilitate and create an enabling environment. And considering a country like India, which is so diverse, where in some of the northeastern states, the way you see the geography is different. You look at Punjab or you look at the Western India, many things are different, industries are different. You come to the southern part of India, you have a different kind of a geography, history, everything, right? So the kind of regions we are in, the kind of states we are in, we have different identities. We are so multilingual, multicultural, and the levels of development also varies from state to state. So in such a situation, in such a country, imposing something which is a very unified kind of a curriculum is definitely not fair. And that was what was happening till now. And NEP is going to break all that and give us a lot of opportunities to design things which could be local, which could be addressing our needs. So let's see how it happens. So if you look at a typical scenario of education in India till now has been, we see it as a climb. Okay, we do secondary, higher secondary school, and then undergraduate, postgraduate. It's like a climbing the ladder. But if somebody is not able to climb the ladder, and for some reason, if someone wants to take up some job or work for various reasons, it is not very friendly for such a system. And then those who drop out of the system, then we definitely don't see them on par, or we kind of look at them as dropping out is seen in a very negative way. And there are a lot of social issues attached to this. But when you look at, let's say, for example, secondary and higher secondary kind of school level education, with NEP 2020, what we are going to propose, or what we are going to implement, I should be saying, is that more exposure, more sensitization to the world of work, more efforts at holistic development of the children, and also showing them, their own talent, and helping them through very immersive kind of learning experiences. So that's the focus. And so then this scenario of climbing the ladder will also gradually change. And when you look at the higher education, that is the undergraduate and postgraduate, we are going to have a lot of scope for making education multidisciplinary, which means you can have a combination of subjects from science, from humanities. Even an engineering college student should be able to do a few subjects in humanities as a minor kind of a subject or a discipline. There'll be more of flexibility, and again, holistic development is also considered to be important. But most critical here is application-oriented learning at the higher education level, and recognizing all this through the credit-based system. The National Credit Framework was recently released, and that's talking in detail about how all this can be implemented. So I'll quickly summarize the kind of problems that are listed in NEP 2020 document. some of them most critical ones which concerns the teachers is that the emphasis has to be more on cognitive skills and learning outcomes. And currently there is a lot of separation of disciplines. What I mean is that if you are a commerce student, you will remain a commerce student for your life. If you are doing, let's say, electrical or electronics engineering, but if you are interested in learning something like let's say photography or video making, then the curriculum does not allow you to do that. There is a rigid separation. Then there is very limited teacher and institutional autonomy. Autonomy is a very important aspect of NEP 2020. That's why we have designed this webinar as a series where today we are going to look at a few key highlights of NEP 2020, and in the coming sessions we'll go deeper into it, but we are going to tie it up all with how it is going to create opportunities for teachers for professional development and also personal development, and make teaching a profession which is, of course it's highly respected, but is it also equally lucrative and glamorous and aspirational? That we need to see. But we see that NEP is going to change this image also of teaching. And less emphasis on research, which is a fact. So these problems are addressed in the policy. So that's why the policy is proposing about multidisciplinary education, medium of instructions being, in local languages, at least at the school level. And then also the revamp of pedagogy, the revamp of assessment processes, and teachers' role being very important in curriculum design, in syllabus design, and also emphasizing on research at the undergraduate level. So all this is required because we want to bring in equity, inclusion, and make it a very immersive and experiential learning kind of an experience. If you look at the present scenario, these are all the things we do. These are the courses, these are the institutions which are involved. There's NCVET, this should be NCVET. That's a regulator, NCVET. And then there is all these degree and, other engineering and other courses that are being offered. And there's also open schooling. So in other words, this entire set of courses that we are offering through various institutions at various levels, ideally should feed into the world of work. So the world of work is something that we enter into only after completing a degree or a certain undergraduate or a postgraduate program. That's how it is today. But with NEP 2020, what we are saying is that the world of work or the place of work or whatever kind of job you wish to take, that should be introduced to the children at a young age. So that's what it is going to do. And if you look at the way the world of work or the jobs that get created, we usually see that most of the jobs get created at the lower level or the entry level. And how do we prepare people who are in need of such jobs? It's mostly through skill-based programs, right? So NEP is making that provision also. But when you prepare them with skill-based short-term training program, it doesn't mean that that's the dead end. So they should be given more opportunities to go for higher education. And that's where the credit system, the recognition of prior learning, all these come into the picture. So now why NEP 2020? If you look at these pictures, you will see that today we have a Vande Bharat Express, the train. Then we are soon maybe going to have a bullet train or some other train. Look at the way from steam engine to the trains that we are talking about today. We have been happily, looking at this as a development, right? As a progress. It has not been static. Otherwise, if railways had not developed these, or if technologies had not come into play to develop these trains, we would have been still doing using the steam engine and going around, in the trains with the steam engines. But you see, the same thing has not happened in our education system, right? What I'm trying to say is that we have not been dynamic. We have not changed much. Even if we have changed, there have been very cosmetic, high-level changes. But with NEP, we are going to look at it as a complete change gradually. It's not going to be overnight, but it is like moving from let's say from this electric train to the bullet train or some other train. So I'm just trying to give you this example to tell you that this is the kind of change we should be foreseeing in the education system. So in other words, when we talk about NEP 2020 for teachers, trainers, etc., it's an exercise in change management. Okay, how are you becoming the change agent to implement NEP 2020, and how it is going to be an exercise in change management? Now let's do a small activity here. I would like all of you to quickly identify these icons and these pictures and icons here, and tell us what are these representing. Are they representing any stakeholders in the education system, or they are representing any components in the education system? So can you please quickly share your responses in the chat? Yeah, I'll be looking at the chat, so please identify all these icons. Yes, I hope you are doing it. I don't see anybody responding yet. Yeah. Yes, books, information technology. Very nice. Yes, Manisha, it's about books. Yeah, these are all important components. And IT is a very important, again, component here. Financial management. Okay, Mr. Satish. Yeah, you're all identifying books and classrooms. There are many others, right? Yeah, ideas. Okay, so you see there are many stakeholders, there are many people, like, the system, the infrastructure, again, the industry, very correct. And then there is the financial element, and then there are parents, right? And we want to see education as something that is growing, that has to help us in, in our growth. So these are some of the important ideas: the live classroom, correct, and the blended classroom. So these are, and of course, the disabled people who are challenged, and they should also be taken care. So there is inclusivity. So there are many things revolving around education, and that is what the education policy is also going to take care. Yeah. Now, why teachers are important? So if you look at NEP 2020, it assigns, it accords a lot of importance to teachers. It says we need a motivated, energized, and capable faculty to make it happen. So these faculty members should have their freedom to design their own curriculum and come up with new pedagogical approaches, reading material, textbooks, assignments, assessments. So empowering faculty, helping them to, get into research. All these are going to be very, very important to implement the new education policy. And current statistics talk about how the employability or the rate of unemployment in India is still so low. And the sad part of the story is that we don't have much of unemployment problem, but we have more of underemployment. By underemployment, I mean highly qualified people taking up jobs which are actually not meant for them. So we still have such issues, and we are grappling with such issues. So it becomes even more meaningful that we look at the implementation of NEP 2020. And we have seen the people who have registered, the participants for this webinar, and quite a few of them were from ITIs. So we thought we should give you a brief about ITIs. ITIs are more than 70-year-old institutions in India. And as you know, ITIs are the key institutions for technical education and training. That is like it says, industrial training institutes. And they are playing a very important role, in creating people who are industry ready for a very long time. And in NEP 2020, a lot of importance has been given to vocational education. So we'll come to that a little later. And then another important aspect of NEP 2020 is recognition of the role played by industry. Today, industry in Indian education system, if you look at it, is mostly represented by sector skill councils. The industry sector skill councils are the ones who create the curriculum, who create the qualification packs, etc., to bring in the industry requirements into the curriculum. So I would request all of you to visit these websites. And if you need more info, you can always get in touch with us, or in the chat, you can share your queries as we are going ahead with the presentation. And the role of the industry in NEP 2020 is very important, because we are talking about a system of education which is going to be work integrated. So when I say work integrated, it means that right from the school level, we are looking at options where the children get introduced to the world of work. And the moment we say work, it is industry. And when I say industry, it is not always the large and big enterprises. It could be the small and medium enterprises, or it could be the rural industry also, which is more craft-centric, or which has a lot of very small nano kind of enterprises, right? So all these represent industries. And then we also have the National Skills Qualification Framework, which is going to decide on the kind of levels at which these qualifications are going to be designed. And all this is implemented right now. The regulator, which is NCVET, it's a very important organization. It's a very important organization which is going to make sure that everything is streamlined very well, and there is a transparency in all that we take up as a part of implementation of NEP 2020 and making it skill-based and bringing the skill angle in various courses. If you look at the academic perspective, we have always seen the academic side of it as the curriculum is mostly seen as something that is static. Whereas if you look at the industry changes. The industry changes with technology. New job roles come in. The jobs which existed, let's say, till yesterday or till last week, maybe they will change next month. It is as dynamic as that. We talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about robotics, the latest technologies, automation. All these are going to bring in a lot of changes in many jobs. I'm sure you're aware of most of these things. Now, all these are kind of getting tied up under the NEP policy, the policy recommendations and how it's going to get implemented. So currently, if you look at the industry academia collaboration, that is the industry and the colleges or the institutions, mostly it is centered around placements. Mostly it is centered around a little bit of teacher training, teacher education, or things like that, or adjunct faculty coming into play. But if you really want to see, the policy getting implemented very effectively, the industry also has to play an important role. The academia has to explore ways of tying up with industry for faculty, for infrastructure, for research, for innovation, for many of these things, which will bring in the value and make education work integrated. And that is what 21st century classrooms are all about. It is about not only work integrated education, but it is about helping students learn, realize, understand their potential, and also take it more seriously in terms of, in terms of responsibility for self-development, for lifelong learning, because there is a lot of uncertainty, there is a lot of things which are happening around us, which are not in our control. So we cannot say that today, if somebody has done a particular course, there is a job waiting for this person. That's not the fact. And even if you get a job, you need to get trained. And after you get trained, you will have to keep upskilling yourself. So this is a kind of flow that is going to be. So it's not like I get into a job and then I work till I retire. There's nothing like that happening in the future, or even right now. I don't think that's what is going to be the thing for most of us. So it's all about continuous learning, lifelong learning, trying to see, opportunities everywhere, and having a certain mindset which is going to help you to face the kind of world of work. So this NSQF, or the kind of qualification framework we have in India, is very critical when we are talking about NEP, because like I said, we are talking about multidisciplinary education, and also the credit framework, which is going to kind of assign credits to the kind of courses we do. And then outcome-based learning, that's another important part. So all these will have to get aligned, and it has to be integrated seamlessly. So that's when the qualification framework plays a very important role, where whatever you're learning is kind of aligned with a certain level, like we call it as NSQF levels 1 to 10. Like let's say the level 7 would be the undergraduate level. Level 5 would be the starting of it. And below that is class 12th, or, the up to class 12. So level 10 could be the ITI level. So you see, this is the kind of framework which is going to be very useful for us. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, the levels, where we are going to measure all the learning as per these levels. Now, I would like you to take up a small activity, and this activity is about, few images which I'm going to share now. I'll quickly share the images after this slide. Please tell me, as a teacher, trainer, instructor, or whatever role you are in, how will you use this image in the current scenario at present? Let's assume on Monday, you have to take up a certain class, or you have to do a practical kind of a session. Then look at these 4 images and share your responses in the chat. First image is this. Where will you use this image? It's okay. You can go outside the subject that you teach. Just be very creative. Okay. And the second image is this. This has become a national news, as you all know. And the third image is this. This is also a problem for most of us in many places in India. And the fourth image is this. If you had to use these images in your current classroom when you take a lesson, how, where, why would you use these images? I can already see some comments coming in. Okay, water conservation, hygiene. May I request all the others also to please share your responses? I see just a few of them responding here. It would be nice to hear from you, because I wouldn't want to just go on lecturing. It is nice to hear from you also. Yeah, healthcare. I'll again show you the images once again. Yeah, pandemic, healthcare, inflation, hygiene. Okay. Storage skill, Mr. Satish Panchal. Yeah. Any more responses? Water scarcity, correct? Manisha? Yeah, so the idea of using these images is to sensitize you to the fact that NEP is talking about, okay, alternatives for tomatoes. Very nice. So you see the kind of opportunity that NEP is creating for teachers is to be able to use the current scenarios, the things that are happening, and include it in your curriculum and make it as interesting as possible for the students. This is where the application of academic disciplines and all comes into play, right? Yeah, Shabnam Diman, yes, very right. Rotting of tomatoes early in the monsoon, very interesting. So you see, this kind of a thought process is what is needed for us to appreciate what is there in NEP 2020. Now, I'm sharing few images here. As you can see, there are these leaking pipelines, and then there is a repair happening. The plumber is coming and repairing. Okay. And this is a fixing of a problem. We are fixing some problem, right, with this, the leakage problem. But later, the problem doesn't get fixed. Let us assume the problem is not fixing, but there is a problem with the architecture itself, the way the building is made has a problem. Then what do you do? Any responses? We are trying to address a problem here. The problem is there are leaking pipes. This is just an example again. And we discovered that by calling the plumber, by fixing, it's not solving. Then you discover that the building has a problem. Then what do you do? Yes. Yes, design issues, correct. Right? The architecture and design issues. So NEP 2020 is something like that. Earlier there were many education policies and other commission reports and all that. We were fixing few things. We were trying to rectify few things, right? Because our system was still continuing from the days of the British rule, right? So we tried to make corrections. But all the corrections or all the changes that we were making were very cosmetic or very tiny changes. It did not help us in addressing. So we discovered that it is the education system is like this building, which has architecture problem, design problems. That's why it needs an overhaul, complete change. That is what NEP is going to do. Okay. So if you look at the brief history here of this one, the entire way, the policy development happened in India, the policies came up from 1950 to, the NEP 2020. So we had few policies earlier, but then we also had, very interestingly, one of the major developments for NEP to also have a lot of vocational emphasis is because of the setting up of the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship in 2014. Which has given a new focus to the importance of vocational education in India. This was not there earlier. So this is one of the big overhaul kind of a things, right? And later, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Skill Development started working together. That's another very, very positive change. So it is not just skill development as in doing small skill development course. It is about integrating skilling in the curriculum. Mainstreaming of vocational education, as we call it. And NEP 2020 is talking in a big way about this. So what the policy is proposing is that we should move towards inclusive and integrated models where, for example, in the higher education segment, today, if you look at it, or rather till recently, I'll again give you an example. I'm trying to give you as many examples as possible so that it gets illustrated well. If you look at the higher education, typical higher education in India, it is always at the end of the course, you get a degree. Okay, let me give you an example from my own, education and tell you a bit about myself here. I thought that would be interesting for all of you to know. I'm the founder director of National Skills Network, and we are based out of Hyderabad. And we started this platform, National Skills Network, which is known as NSN, with the idea of promoting skilling, with the idea of promoting vocational education and employability. Okay, there are many reasons why I did all that. I don't have much time to share all these things, but I have today about 27 years of work experience and research all combined. It's like I have about 27 years of experience. So I can see the entire trajectory, and my doctoral education, my doctorate degree was in higher education, and it was in autonomy and skilling and teacher education. So there were many things I was working on, but I have few regrets. One regret is that I was doing, two post-graduation courses at the same time. I was doing MA English and I was doing MA French. What happened was at a certain point in time, my MA French was a correspondence course. Those days it was called correspondence course, where we had a lot of things to be done and posted, literally posting it, in the form of documents printed. The exams of these two courses clashed. And I had to decide and prioritize one of the post-graduation courses. So I had to choose English. So I completed my post-graduation in English. My French was just left, but I was equally passionate about French. Today, my regret is that if based on my coursework, if they had given me some credits, I would have used that credit, right? It wasn't there some 30 years ago. Similarly, I was doing a course in Sanskrit when I was in high school, and for some reason I had to discontinue. I could not take the exam or something. I took few exams, but I could not take the other exams. So that entire learning is wasted. It is not recognized. I'm sure with all of you also, you have such experiences. I'm quite sure, because we are all people who are, we have aspirations. We have our own dreams. We are not tied to one single thing, right? So today with this NEP 2020, we are willing to have recognition for such efforts through credit-based system. We are making it flexible through multiple pathways. And we are also trying to bring in, like say, for example, in degree college, UG education and all, there will be changes, which we will see just now. So this is catering to a whole lot of people who have various issues in completing a certain program. And if you look at it from the vocational side, NEP 2020 is very keen on creating sensitization about vocational education. By 2025, it says that at least 50% of the learners should have exposure to some form of vocational education, which is again connected with world of work. Now let's go to the insights from the policy. I picked up some 10 insights, I think. The policy is actually talking about, basically, these are the highlights. So, if you look at the policy, it is repeatedly talking about few things like flexibility, multidisciplinary education, making it less rigid, and bringing the academic and the vocational streams closer, industry participation, teacher development, professional development of teachers, continuous professional development, credit framework, outcome-based learning. So many of these they keep coming in the policy. If you go through the document, it's a 60-page document. It's available on the ministry website. In also on our platform on NSN, we have a dedicated page on NEP 2020. You can also get access to it. We will share the link in the chat. You can take a look at that page as well. So it is talking about making education socially meaningful and aspirational, especially, by removing the stigma attached to the vocational education. For example, today it is not aspirational for somebody to do a course in ITI, right? We feel that only the ones who are scoring less will go to ITI. But if you look at the recent trends, in a state like Maharashtra, even students who have scored very high have joined ITI courses. So things are changing, right? And multidisciplinary courses, as I told you earlier, a mix of science and humanities. So all these are important because we feel that students should be able to groom their talent. They should be able to, utilize their interest and do something good for themselves and feel happy about education. Whereas in today's scenario, it is mostly stressful because most of the students, I think rather 99% of them are mostly worried about exams, parental pressure, and performance in the exam. Whereas NEP is talking about an education which is also enjoyable. So reimagining vocational education, as I was just telling you, the image of vocational education has to change, and that is what is being implemented in many ways. And today, if you look at the degree programs, even in undergraduate courses, we are talking about job-oriented courses and apprenticeship embedded kind of courses. So this is again coming from NEP. So gradually in the next few years or decades, hopefully we see that vocational subjects are also equally important, or people enroll for these courses and consider them as equally important. And then there is also scope for, as I said, the outcome-based education, the learning outcome-based education. And this is because the education, or rather the learning that happens today, it is not, as I was saying, when we are talking about 21st century, it is not confined to the classroom, right? Some part of it might happen in the physical classroom. Some part of it might happen through some other means. So there is a lot of information, there's a lot of knowledge around us, and students have a lot of access. Everybody has a mobile phone. Even in rural areas, there is a good penetration of technology. So in such a scenario, what is important is to have the outcome, the learning outcome as the focus. So we tell them by the end of this program, you should be able to demonstrate this. Now, how you do that, how you learn, it need not be just classroom, it can be other sources. That's fine, right? So this makes it very, broad-based. It is giving a lot of opportunities for students and also recognizing them. So here it is about making it inclusive, interoperable, and interdisciplinary outcome-based education, where the tangible learning is very important, because it has to tie up to some outcome, and which is again tying up to some job role maybe, or something which is aspirational for the student. For students who don't want to get into jobs, it could be higher education, it could be like a research, it could be some degree, but everything can be tied up to a certain concrete outcome. And school internships, appreciation for skill. I'm sure most of you would have heard about the 5+3+3+4 recommendation from NEP 2020, which is actually talking about, students, including them right from the, that is the LKG, UKG kind of thing, right? So it is early childhood inclusion that is happening. And also there are recommendations for craft-centric learning. There are certain Gandhian principles which have come in. And also there is a bit of Indian education system, the traditional Indian education system that is getting into the NEP. And then there are other important concrete suggestions like the practice of bagless days for children in various schools. At least once a month, you should have a bagless day where the children can get sensitized to the industry. So these are all very positive things that are going to change the school level learning and sensitize them to the world of work through vocational subjects. As you may be aware, CBSE has already come up with many vocational subjects which can be implemented in the higher education segment. But now these vocational subjects can also become a part of the primary school, where the primary kids can go and explore these skills. So this has a lot of social value, and it is definitely going to change the image of certain job roles also. Then integration of vocational education, academic learning. There is a proposal to form this body called as National Institute for Integration of Vocational Education. So there are many such things. We are not going to pick up all of them. We are only picking up things where the teachers are concerned, where it will make it will call for a change in your role. So this is another important thing where the teachers can play a very important role. And this can only happen when you try to educate yourself, go through the policy document, pick up sections where, you can understand, okay, these are the things which are being suggested, and read a few things. So these are all opportunities for you. They are opening up new avenues for you. Then the labor market or the job market orientation is also brought into the new education policy. And the beauty of it is that it is so flexible that for the undergraduate education, which is being moved from 3 to 4 years, where the 4th year is mostly focused on research, which will reduce 1 year in the post-graduation. So basically what it means is that if somebody is doing an undergraduate program for 4 years, then the MA or the MSc or whatever will be just 1 year. Or if somebody is doing a 4-year BTech, then the post-graduation will be only for 1 year. This is useful in many ways. And also another thing which is built into it is the multiple entry exit. So if somebody is dropping out for some reason after the first year of undergraduate program, he or she will be given a diploma. If it is a second year case where somebody has to discontinue because of a certain reason, he or she will get an advanced diploma. And if they complete 3 years, they get a degree. And then the 4th year is more focused on research. Why research? Now, if you ask me why research, I'm sure all of us know that in India, we need a lot of push for innovation. We need a lot of push for inquiry-based thinking, new ideas to come. Okay. it can't be just rote learning. So by bringing in research and making it official as a part of the curriculum, NEP is opening up a wonderful opportunity for young people to take up research projects. And this is creating another opportunity for teachers to be the guides or the mentors for such research projects. And you can combine your research ideas and maybe implement them as joint projects with your students. So this is another idea, another recommendation from NEP 2020. Then recognition of prior learning is another important aspect, where if somebody has learned something informally, or if like say for instance, there are people who learn things on the job. There are many people we come across or we see them. They won't be highly qualified as such, but then they will be learning few things, few skills. And let's say people who somebody has set up, let's assume that somebody has set up a small restaurant. He's an entrepreneur. He or she is an entrepreneur. And over the years, this person, even after discontinuing formal education, has picked up many skills. And through these skills, this person was able to set up a proper, good restaurant, which is kind of popular, but doesn't have any qualification. So based on this experience, work experience, there is a provision that this person can be given an assessment and given a degree or a certificate which is matching with the kind of performance in the assessment. So this is the recognition of prior learning. This is actually opening up avenues for people to formalize their informal learning. And then technology adoption is very important, and student entrepreneurship, all these ideas are there in the policy, where we are talking about how job creation becomes important, and we cannot depend on the set of jobs that government creates or the private sector creates. We need students to think like job creators. We need students to think like innovators, like problem solvers. Let's say, for example, engineering college students, if they are studying artificial intelligence and robotics, nothing should stop them from coming up with solutions. Let's say, for example, recently we all heard about this very sad tragedy, right? The train accident which happened in Balasore in Orissa. This curriculum, the new curriculum, should encourage students, when they come up with news like that, they should be able to use their engineering knowledge or any learning that they have to propose solutions to avoid such accidents in future. That is the relevance of education which we are talking today. It should be relevant to us. Okay, that's the kind of relevance. Then professional development of teachers, having a resource pool of trained teachers. There are many proposals here, and there's also a proposal to give a lot of autonomy to teachers, encourage them to go for professional development courses, especially for school teachers. But for teachers who are teaching at the higher education or the postgraduate level, we need to figure out how such opportunities can be created, so that these teachers also take up many research projects, and maybe they plan to get a doctoral degree. By the way, as you know, there is no MPhil now in NEP 2020. So MPhil has been discontinued. So you see, these are all, again, that's the reason I'm going on using the word opportunity. There is a world of opportunities which is getting created. Then the capacity building for professional, technical, vocational teachers and training, where we are talking about the 21st century skilling, 21st century workplace, 21st century classroom, where all these disciplines come into play, right? It is a multidisciplinary kind of a setup, where I just told you in the beginning as well that we cannot have a very rigid distinction between all these disciplines. And if you look at most of the education systems in different other countries, especially in US and other countries, for a very long time, they have been having similar kind of a setup. Okay, when Indians go to US for their higher education, you would have heard them doing a course in music along with engineering, right? Or doing a course in history along with some science like microbiology or some other high-end science course. I think that's what we look forward to having in India in a very recognized way. And this is really going to change and transform the scenario. So now to summarize the new education policy, I would say it has recommended quite a few changes. There could be few structural changes or other kind of changes. But to summarize them, let us look at it at the school level and higher education level. And at the school level, this is the major change where we are looking at the 5 plus, this 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 kind of a system from the 10 plus 2 system which exists. And this is a base, and every teacher, I think, has to focus on this. Even if you're teaching in an engineering college or a degree college, you need to understand why this change is recommended, because these are the children you will be teaching in future, or these are the children your students will be teaching in future. So what I mean to say is that maybe 15 years down the line, 20 years down the line, these school children will become, they will keep, growing in their academic careers, right? So you will have them coming from this background. And this is a very different kind of a setup here, where we are trying to encourage a lot of new thinking and, new kind of curriculum for this framework. So this includes, the early childhood care and, education, which is for that LKG, UKG up to first class. Sensitization about work professions, which I told you about the bagless days and the life skills and others. Life skills are going to be very important for school children in the curriculum, and exposure and awareness about talent and skills. So if somebody is good at, let's say, graphic design or animation, or if a child is creating a robot, or if a child is creating a drone, this policy is definitely saying that, hey, look, please encourage them, don't discourage them. Let's encourage that kind of thinking process, the creativity, etc., which the child is showing. So you have the CBSE curriculum introducing so many new courses, as you can see, right from agriculture, beauty wellness, handicrafts, information technology, drones, electrical, stuff, and then banking and finance. So many things which are actually proposing also a multi-skilling kind of a program at the school level. Now, if you look at the higher education level, we are talking about the 4-year degree with research, with majors and minors, like you have in countries like US and other countries, where you will be majoring in 3 or 4 subjects. Let's say you're majoring in history, political science, and English literature, but you are minoring in, let us say, home science, or you are doing a minor course in photography, or you're doing a minor course in video making. So this is the kind of flexible curriculum which is available, which is going to be available. And there is also focus on employability enhancement. This is actually something that is going to help in employability. To give you a quick example again, today we see a lot of people, young people, doing very interesting things and also earning through it, right? It's like doing some gig jobs. You see a lot of YouTubers who are kids, who are adolescents, who are young people. There are also some of them who are called influencers. This thing never existed, right, earlier. Today, you see how the changes are happening. If you look at the automotive industry, the engines are all going to be electric. Okay, but if your curriculum is still talking about the old-fashioned combustion engine, then it's not going to help, right? So the curriculum and all these have to change. But at the same time, if a child is able to think of coming up with an innovative idea of, let's say, the battery problem in the electric engines in cars, we always, hear about many battery problems, right? So we need to encourage the child to come up with some solution, encourage that thought process. And that's where entrepreneurship, lifelong learning, all these become very important aspects of the new education policy when we are trying to implement it. So now I'm revisiting the 21st century classroom, and I would like you all to reflect for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes. We still have about 5 to 10 minutes. You can reflect on this and share your ideas about how you will be contributing to this classroom, the 21st century classroom. And as you know, this webinar today is going to be followed by the next session, where we are going to connect NEP 2020 with 21st century skills for teachers, trainers, instructors and adjunct faculty, or professors of practice, or whatever you want to call them, because we feel those 21st century skills are the ones you need to become to contribute and to appreciate the changes that are coming in the NEP 2020. So that's the reason we have tied up these 3 sessions, as the first session is all about the policy, where we picked a few highlights. And this is actually going to be followed by a small activity also for you. And the next session is going to be on 21st century skills for teachers, for facilitators, trainers. And following that, we will have the professional development. So that by the time you complete and participating in all these 3 sessions, you will be able to get few ideas, which ideally should trigger off a thought process in you. It should catalyze a new thought process and new energy and enthusiasm to look at this policy as a great opportunity to bring in few changes that makes our education more meaningful and gradually phases out over-dependence on exams, over-dependence on rote learning, over-dependence on a system which has become quite rigid and archaic. And it is not serving the purpose of today's world of work or today's economy. So could you please share your idea of 21st century classroom in the chat here? You're free to write whatever it is. Please don't hesitate. It would be nice to know. And I'll read out few highlights again from Satish Panchal. Yeah, changing the style of teaching, like solving the problems by the industry. Yeah. Mock drills, yes, very nice. These are all very interesting things that you have observed and seen. So basically, you're focusing more on your responses are more centered on the industry alignment and the industry participation. May I request others also to please share your ideas of what you feel this 21st century classroom should be. Yeah, correct, Manisha. The policy will give a chance for students to become, to have all-round development. Exactly. And I'm so happy you said that. And teachers again play a very, very crucial role in this. So the role of a teacher could change to a facilitator, mentor, or anything that you want to call. Because you might be experiencing, or you might have seen that some part of what you teach in the classroom could already be there on some YouTube channel or some, something on Instagram or something. That's how the technology is taking over, right? So the teacher doesn't become redundant there, okay? It is not like that. The teacher has to reimagine his or her role. So it is basically taking you to the next level of challenge where you will see yourself as a facilitator, a guide, a mentor, somebody who is really playing a crucial role in this all-round development of the student. So I think that's the wonderful thing about this policy. Yeah, may I get more responses from others here? Yes, Vishaka Diman, Atanu Bhattacharya, Preeti Sharma. Could you please spend a few minutes thinking about this? Dr. Malti Puri, Mr. Venkatappa, Tangaraj, Dr. Tangaraj. Curriculum should not be bound by a particular syllabus. Instead, it should include activities that produce students with extracurricular skills. Absolutely fantastic response, Shubham. This is what NEP is actually saying. And I'm so glad you have pointed out this. It is not restricted to the syllabus, as in syllabus has to be covered. Now, what is syllabus coverage? I don't know. We have heard this for a lot of, so long. Covering the syllabus and the stress that it creates on the teacher, right? We would all be very happy as teachers if there is no stress about covering the syllabus. So can we imagine a scenario where that syllabus covering or completion doesn't become a hindrance for our growth as teachers? See, ultimately, the teacher has to keep growing. I mean, that is what teaching is all about. It is not like with a B.Ed degree. Of course, B.Ed degree is a technical requirement for a school teacher. Maybe a PhD is a technical requirement for a college teacher. But whether you do a B.Ed or whether you do a PhD, I think it has to connect with our passion, with what we want to do, our purpose in life. and how we want to improve the education scenario in a country which has so many dreams. And this education policy is about fulfilling those dreams. So I'm, Preeti, very nice. Curriculum should include extracurricular. Yeah, definitely. And also, let me also tell you, this NCRF, that is National Credit Framework, I'll be talking about it in the third session. So I didn't pick up today. In NCRF, there is a very clear indication about how credits can be given to extracurricular activities, sports, and any other kind of informal learning, so that the students feel that they have not wasted their time doing all this. Like I gave you the example of my, language courses in French and Sanskrit. Okay, if there was a credit system today, I would have been happy and told everybody, hey, look, I earned 4 credits or 5 credits or whatever. Yeah. And teachers are gurus in his or her role. But today, okay. Yeah, the lack of motivation for teachers could be because of various reasons. And since it's a very, planned webinar, we don't have much scope to deal with that issue. But then I think the objective of this webinar is also to make teachers rethink about their role, and also become equipped with 21st century skills, so that you enjoy the profession you're in, not just with the kind of job you're doing. See, there are two things about teachers, trainers, instructors, and others. See, unlike a typical job, okay, let me give you an example. Let's assume somebody is working in a software company and he or she is doing programming. Okay, most of the time, the programmer's job is programming, doing whatever is required in that setup, going to the office, sitting and working and completing the task which is given as a programmer. Then when the person goes home, he or she might want to develop few other skills or do something more if they are interested in that. You compare this with a teacher's job. A teacher's job is not like this. A teacher's job is 24/7, if you ask me. The moment you pick up a role of a teacher, either by choice or by force, a teacher's job is not a job. It is like a lifestyle. You are continuously thinking about how should I improve? How should I improve the education system? How should I contribute to the life of a child? That's why it is called a noble profession and all that. But yeah, there are some issues. As I said, we all know there are many issues rather. But let's take NEP as something. It's like a harbinger of a new hope. It is opening up new horizons, right? Yeah, so I understand. Yeah, there are many issues which become hurdles and they don't help you keep, getting motivated. But yeah, if you look at it as a problem that has to be solved, I'm sure many teachers can come together and find solutions for those issues. Okay, so that is what the policy gives us hope there. Now, to cover up, in addition to all this, there is also something known as the parents' expectations, or what the parents expect, or the parents' mindset about education. Okay, I've used 2 images here, which are one is from a very popular movie. I hope you can tell me the name. The other one, I have given away the name. So what is this first image from? Which movie? So these movies, or rather in popular media, you have seen the kind of expectations parents have. Okay, we all know the famous saying in India, right? आप कुछ भी कर लो लाइफ में, do whatever you want, but पहले engineering का degree, just complete the engineering degree first. उसके बाद कुछ भी कर लो. So, that mindset of the parents has to go. Right? The parents should be happily sending the child to a class in music, or a class in home science, or a class in, whatever subject the children want to pick up. Of course, there are other things attached to this. You can always pick up and write about it and tell us more. So this is the most important issue that, we face, when we are talking about these things. But then with NEP 2020, there is always a chance that, the parents also appreciate the changes that are coming in. That's why when I started my session, I said NEP 2020 for teachers is a kind of an exercise in change management. And that is what we are trying to do through these 3 webinars. We are kind of trying to help you understand the changes, that are called for and take steps to do something about it. Okay. So now to close this, before I close this, I would first like to know what questions you have. We can keep 5 minutes for that. Yes, practical learning, a very good comment. That's what it is all about. We were talking about work integrated education and other things. So now I would request you all to leave your questions here. If you have any questions, it will be nice to discuss. We still have about 5 minutes for this. And there is also a small task which we would like all of you to do. Just now you had mentioned your points, your ideas about 21st century classroom. We request you all to do a short write-up, a small article or 2 or 3 paragraphs about your vision for 21st century classroom with respect to whichever discipline you are into. Let's say you're teaching an engineering subject, or let's say you're a very senior teacher who already has a lot of experience, but you would want to reflect on your vision for 21st century classroom. We have already given you a few points here. So the exercise is for you to write a short kind of a short article or any write-up and send it to us with your picture. We want to publish this on our platform, and it would be helpful if you can do it at the earliest and send it to us in the next 2 or 3 days. We will also be sending you a mail with the link of this entire session, because we are YouTube live also, right? And at the same time, if you can do a video on this, that would be even more fantastic. You can send us a video message, a video bite, telling us about your vision for this 21st century classroom. So from this 21st century classroom, in the next session, we will connect it with the 21st century skills that are needed for all the teachers and the trainers and others. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the questions which are coming on YouTube as well as in this chat, and also observations. Yeah, the policy will focus on the actual learning process. Yes, Meenakshi, that is the entire intent of the policy. The focus, as I said, is not on exams and getting marks in the exams and making somebody feel happy and then regret or, not get a job or do things that you want to do. But it is all about learning and enjoying learning. And the belief is that when you enjoy your learning, like you must have heard about Ikigai and these concepts, and also the purpose in your life, if all these things match, there is always something good that is going to happen in the life of the person. So that's the kind of philosophy this policy is also trying to reiterate. So the question from YouTube is that we need the information of institution who gives fashion garments skills. Sure, we will share this information, Rupesh Kumar. Watch out for more interactions. You can also write to us. And in case you are sharing your email ID or getting in touch with us with an email ID that we have given you, we can directly contact you and give you more information. We'd be happy to do so. So how will you apply practical knowledge if you don't have any theoretical knowledge? This is a question. According to me, of course, Dr. Fahad, both are very important. We are not undervaluing theoretical. We are saying theoretical is important. Currently, the problem is, currently the focus is more on theoretical. Okay, please understand this. I hope you agree with us. And also, I hope others also reflect on this. Currently, the focus is mostly on theoretical, mostly on bookish learning, even in engineering subjects. The practical is very less. Whereas the future of work, the world of work today demands that, you have to be practically very good, right? So it is more like, for example, even in engineering or these professional courses, you might be doing, something in robotics, something in data science, or something in artificial intelligence. But how much of practical exposure are you getting? The application of it. This policy is all about application of knowledge. That is where the practical comes into the play. That is where, when I gave you those examples like the tomatoes or the water problem, we can look at practical solutions, right? In your own classroom, let's say you are teaching engineering subjects. Why not give, something some project to a student and tell him or her to come up with a solution for the tomatoes problem, I'm sure the student will think really creatively so that this problem doesn't get repeated next year, right? So this is what is the application of whatever they are learning. Okay, it could be a management student, let's assume. A management student can come up with a plan for farmers of tomatoes and give this plan to them saying, hey, look, they do this. A technology student can come up with some issues, addressing some issues where the farmers won't suffer next year. Okay, so this is what it is. Yeah, so again, another point from Rupesh Kumar is that getting job abroad or the international employability should also be a part of the classroom. Yes, Rupesh Kumar, this is actually a part of the NEP 2020. It is already mentioned in the policy about international employment and international level of courses and qualifications. That's the reason, now you have this National Credit Framework and NCVET. All these are going to take up these issues. Yeah. So yes, according to Satish, when he was studying 35 years ago, he says there were workshops on carpentry, on tinsmithing, welding, etc. So now it's not in the curriculum. Yes. One of the reasons why many things went out of the curriculum is because of the pressure to include subjects which are high scoring, include subjects which are easy for students to grasp, which are helping them get good marks and things like that. Right? So that is what created issues. But now we are going to kind of look at these things in a different limelight. And in the engineering, according to Dr. Fahad, we should also have project work, internship. Of course, yes, all these are definitely going to be there. And typical engineering syllabus will get transformed when you do these activities. When there is a lot of industry visits, when there's a lot of problem solving, as I gave you the problem, like I gave you the example of the train accident, or things that are happening around us every day, like say power generation, power saving. So these are all many things, no? Everything that you see around yourself can be connected with education and skilling. I strongly believe in this. Every problem that we see around ourselves can be assigned to students. And believe me, they will enjoy doing such projects. And that is what NEP is giving us scope for. So with this, I would like to conclude this session. And I request you all to share the write-up with us, mail it to us, your vision for the 21st century classroom in terms of what you expect, how you want to take it forward in your role as a teacher, trainer, or instructor, or adjunct faculty. We would love to hear from you. And please be connected till the next session that's going to happen on the next Saturday at the same time. And in the next session, we are going to talk about 21st century skills. And one more thing you could do is, if you have any queries about 21st century skills, you can mail us. We would be very happy to address all of them in the next session. And you're free to invite your friends, your colleagues, or whoever you feel is going to be benefited from this webinar. You please feel free to invite them. We'll be happy to have more and more people in this. As I said, the objective of this webinar is to sensitize, to create awareness about NEP and tell you that, hey, look, this is what the provisions are, and implementing it, teachers are going to play a very important role. It's not just the college, it's the teachers who can catalyze new thought for implementation. So thank you so much for joining for this first session. I look forward to meet you again in the next session. In the meantime, do visit our website, nationalskillsnetwork.com or .in. And also visit our YouTube channel. You might be getting few inputs from there. And on our website, we have a page dedicated to NEP. We will share that with you. We have a page dedicated to school education that also we will share. You can read up all those. And, as I said, you can write to us and share your concerns, your queries or anything for the next session. Thank you so much. Goodbye.